Welcome to Spending Our Kids' Inheritance. Today we're going to show you around Buenos Aires, show you some of the places that we saw during our first half of our stay. In the middle of our trip we went to Iguazu, and I'll cover that in another video. So Buenos Aires itself is what I would consider a large city. Have not looked up the population, but really kind of irrelevant, I think. Um, but it's nice. It's an easy city to walk around. The bus service is really good. They have an extensive bus route covering a lot of the city. They do have a metro, and while it looks to be a pretty good system, to date, we have not needed it. Everywhere that we've gone, we've just been taking buses. According to Google Maps, the buses have been the faster routes. The city overall, I would say, is a clean city. Um, Traffic's orderly, unlike Lima, where we came from previously. Traffic is quite orderly here in comparison to Lima and some other South American countries that we have been in. One of the things that I've enjoyed walking around is the green spaces. They do have I'll say a fair number. We've been to a few places that have, I think, had more green space. But yeah, down a couple of the main, I guess what I would consider main streets, main roads, you have these long green spaces either down the middle or just off to the side. And you can see to my left in this video, or this clip here, the buses all run down the center in on these streets, and they have nice shelters, well marked. The bus routes are labeled not only at the shelters but in very large numbers on the roadway itself, so it's easy to find the stop for the bus number that you're looking for. All right, so now we can move on to some sites. The first place that I want to cover is El Atino Gran Splendid. This is an early 1900s theater that has been converted into a bookstore. It has been called one of the most beautiful bookstores in the world. Can't remember the guy's name, but somebody from, I believe, National Geographic labeled it as the most beautiful. I guess he did an article, I think, but it really was a beautiful bookstore. When you walk in, you just don't expect to see all this, I guess. It's one of the places that is popular to visit. I would recommend probably going in an afternoon or so, because it is a stop for tourist groups. I believe when we went in, there were maybe only one or two, and you can see how crowded it is, how many people there are. So it's going to be crowded whether or not there are tour groups visiting. But yeah, it was worth a walk. Doesn't cost anything to go in. They do try to control the groups, from what I heard when we entered. I heard a couple people talking at the entrance. But yeah, it gets a lot of business. Free to visit, which is always nice, and it's an interesting place to wander around, take a few pictures. Next up, we have the Japanese gardens. These were, I would say, about average as Japanese gardens go, at least that we've visited. This garden was a nice place to walk around. They had a large pond with some koi. The garden is well cared for and good for probably about an hour. I think we were there close to an hour. The gardens also has a little cafe area where you can get an assortment of food items and drinks. They also have a visitors guest center kind of thing. During our visit, they had a display upstairs of kimonos, mainly clothing items, couple origami things. And they also have a nice balcony where you can get a nice overview of the gardens. Shifting back to some free to visit items, we have the obelisk. This is in one of the main, or along one of the main avenues, down one of the green belts, I'll call it. Walking areas with the greenery. Normally trees, but right around this site you don't have any. But you do have this big BA for Buenos Aires set right in front of the obelisk. This is, of course, a popular place for photos. Like many South American countries, there are plazas scattered everywhere. This particular plaza is Plaza de Mayo. Building in front of us is Casa Rosada. Casa Rosada is where the presidential offices are located. They do have guided tours, which we did not take, and around from this side around to the right side of the building, I did notice a museum. We did not check that out either. But it was nice walking this plaza. We got a few pictures of the statue, a few pictures of Casa Rosada, and there are a couple other buildings of interest on the plaza. There's also a small monument in the center of the plaza. This monument is in honor of the revolution, Argentina's May Revolution. Another location you'll find on the plaza is the Buenos Aires Metropolitan Cathedral. This cathedral was formerly the seat of Pope Francis. The cathedral also houses the remains of General San Martin, who is credited with the liberation of Peru, Chile, and Argentina. During our visit, we were fortunate enough to catch the procession, at least, of the changing of the guard for the tomb of General San Martin. We didn't make it inside for the actual changing of the guard for the tomb of San Martin, but it was nice watching the procession. This is the tomb itself. The three ladies surrounding the sarcophagus are to represent each of the countries, Peru, Chile, and Argentina, that were liberated from the Spanish, I believe, by General St. Martin. Whether you happen to catch the changing of the guard or not doesn't really matter. The church itself is quite beautiful and worth the visit. Now, if you happen to have a Sunday in Buenos Aires, one of the things that I would definitely recommend is to visit the Feria de San Telmo. This runs, I want to say, almost the length of, not sure if it's calle, but the Defensa, runs from the Plaza de Mayo for a good 6 to 8 blocks south. It was an interesting wander, I'll say. Lots of stalls with handicrafts and things. We picked up a few magnets. We like to do magnets on our trips, refrigerator magnets. They nice and small and light, easy to pack along with us on our journeys. Yeah, it was a nice walk. As you get down to the bottom, they have an area with a lot of character, like I'm not even sure if it's comic or cartoon. Maybe it's both. Mafalda is one of the popular ones. I believe all the characters are from the Mafalda. I may be wrong, but it was a nice walk. One tip for those that may want a picture with Mafalda on the bench. If you have a day other than Sunday, return on that day. On Sundays, there's a very long line of people wanting to get their picture taken. Next on our list is the Recoleta Cemetery. This cemetery was built in the early 1800s and contains a large number of notable figures in Argentinian history, generals, presidents, heads of state, all kinds of notable figures from history. Now, we generally enjoyed just walking around and seeing the architecture. I found some of the construction interesting. One of the interesting things that I learned when we were in there is that all of these are not just what you see at ground level. There was one crypt that was undergoing work of some sort, restoration or construction, and they had this photo outside, and you can see in it that this particular one is at least 3 levels, one ground level and 2 below ground. After seeing the one under construction, I started paying more attention and noticed that through some of the grates and windows that some of these have where you can actually see inside the ground level tomb or crypt, I did notice that there were stairs and or ladders in many of them. So a lot of these are, I'll say multi-level, no way of knowing how deep that they go, but there are definitely a lot of multi-level ones there. Now, there were 2 interesting tombs that we did specifically visit. One was that of Evita. Many people know of Evita. She was the wife of the president, if I remember correctly, or wife of one of the presidents. And of course, they did a musical about her life. The second tomb is that of Rufina Cambaceres. The outside is interesting with a statue of a girl in front of, it's actually supposed to be one of the tomb doorways. But the real interesting thing is her story. When she was 19, or on her 19th birthday, she was found dead, or apparently dead, and was entombed. Later on in the evening, one of the cemetery caretakers heard noises and thought tomb robbers were ransacking the tomb, so he went in to check. And when he went in to check, he found that the sarcophagus lid was ajar, and there were scratch marks on the inside, and she had scratch marks on her forehead, like she'd hit her forehead. So ever since then, she's been known as the girl who died twice. Our next stop was the National Historical Museum, or Museo Histórico Nacional. This museum contains items from the Argentinian War of Independence, May Revolution, as well as just general historical items. The museum is free to enter, has a lot of artwork, general items. You can see here some games, some, I'd say, entertainment items, little, what do they call it, chronophone, something like that. Guitars, there's a drum, things like that. But one of the interesting things of our visit is that it was another location we happened to visit and catch a changing of the guard. This was another by chance kind of happening. We were in the museum and they kind of ushered everybody into this hallway. There's a lot of glass cases down the sides, and you're asked to stand between the cases. And the guards march down through to the end. And down at the end, where they actually do the change, had I known in advance, I would have positioned myself down there at the end to see a little more. But there's a sword that there is a guard, somebody that stands guard, a soldier that stands guard is what I should say. And yeah, I guess probably a couple times a day would be my guess, they have this changing of the guard ceremony.
Media vuelta, izquierdo. Descanse, arco. Descanse. Guardia, marco.
Considering I was in the military, I always find these type of um, activities to be interesting. Anything that has military stuff or involves the military um, always has an interest to me. One of the iconic landmarks we had to visit was the Floradas Generica, the general flower, I guess. It's a great big stainless steel flower that is supposed to open and close through the day and has a nice reflecting pond under it. But as you can see in our pictures, or my pictures here, it was under maintenance when we got there. There's 2 petals off and the water's all drained. Our next point of interest is the area around the soccer stadium. Yes, I'm calling it soccer. I'm an American. To me, it's always going to be soccer. I know the rest of the world calls this football. Um, but yes, we started a walk around this area. As you can see, the buildings and everything are all quite colorful. From here, we made our way down to Caminito, which basically translates as small street, but is another touristy area. It is a small street, um, like the area up around the stadium and most of the area walking down to here. Very colorful neighborhood. This particular area and street, you get a lot of shops and restaurants and artists. All in all, a nice area to wander around and just enjoy the scenery. Well, that'll bring this episode to a close, I think. Thanks again for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like and consider following our page so you don't miss any future posts. My next video will be on our trip to Iguazu Falls. That one was a very nice trip. Look forward to sharing it with everybody once I get the video done. So thanks once again for tuning in. Happy and safe travels, and hope to see you again.